be working so hard every day to make this beautiful life and doing all these great things for your family and yourself and improving yourself. And one violent act can change all that in 10 seconds. All those decades of building this beautiful life can be taken away very, very quickly. Our main goal is to make sure that never happens. We're going to have you be the winner in that situation so you can keep the integrity of that life that you've developed.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a friend of a dear friend of the show, and this man, I gotta tell you, has got a heck of a background. He's someone who is an expert when it comes to tactical training for all kinds of people. He runs a company called S&S Training. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Samuel Romanzo. Welcome to the show, Samuel.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. That introduction is, now I got to live up to that introduction. I'm already feeling the pressure, man. That was great. Thank you. And very, very happy to be here. Absolutely.
Good to have you here, bro. So, Samuel.
Yes.
Let's begin at the beginning. Tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Samuel Romanzo?
Now, just remember, you get a different story about this greatness if you talk to my wife. But we'll go with it.
I think that's true for every man.
Yes, we'll go with it. Backstory. Everything that has come about, the tactical training company, everything that I'm doing, the working overseas, working in the Middle East, doing all this stuff, really all came about as a result of getting into the martial arts as at a young age. I was that kid who had older brothers who were into the martial arts, and I spent a number of years growing up as the practice dummy and the beating dummy for them. And somewhere in my early teens, it occurred to me that I should probably actually start training instead of just being on the receiving end of what my brothers were learning. Got into the martial arts, and I was off and running. It just sort of took over my life. Loved it. Loved training. Loved competing. And it became the focus of my life through high school. Even in high school, I was finishing my high school day by about 12 o'clock in the afternoon so that I could head right to the martial arts school and be a little instructor and teach and train and all that, even in high school. College was secondary to my training. As soon as I finished college, zipped over to Japan to keep training. And even before, even when I was first got into college, I had already started competing, going over to St. Petersburg, Russia to compete over there. And the martial arts were starting to take me outside of the US even. And it was a blast, meeting all these cool people, getting to train and compete in other countries. And particularly being 19 years old and heading over to Russia to compete and seeing that world over there, which was so different and eye-opening for me. And those Russians are tough. They were very, very tough. There was some tough fighting over there.
I think the goat of fighting is a Russian dude named Fedor Emelianenko, right?
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument on that.
That dude is the baddest man that ever strode the planet in the fighting world. Anyways.
Yes. Oh, no, absolutely. And it was, these guys were tough, super nice, great people. We had a blast. And then, so the martial arts kept moving, went to Japan. And actually back in 96, when I hit Japan is when I first started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because.
Oh, cool.
Way back then I had gone over there thinking I was going to continue with my Japanese Jiu-Jitsu training because I was doing striking training, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu training. We went over to Japan, and I already had a couple of buddies who were from the U.S. who were already living there. So I went over to live with them and get involved in the training. And when I got there, they said, "Hey, brother, we're doing this thing called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. What is that?" And we hit the mats. started training, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is really great. And we had a great time. Got to train with a lot of good people. Just the fact that we were Americans over in Tokyo, we got to get involved in a lot of training, just simply because we were from the U.S. So we got invited in to do a lot of good stuff, train with the guys that were involved in Shuto and fighting in the Tokyo Dome, and where I'm training with these guys. It was a blast. It was a great
Did you
time.
see the Pride guys back in those days?
They were there. And it was wild. And I also got to see, for me, it was very eye-opening because I was coming up in this very traditional martial arts background. I get over to Japan, which I think is going to be like a bunch, everybody's a samurai walking around and it's going to be all traditional. No, not at all. Especially when you got on the fight side of the house, the Shuto at the time, what they called it, the MMA side of the house back then. Dude, these guys training, boozing, partying,
Wow.
that was and I was like, whoa, this is so different, like this is not
you
what I thought it was
expected,
about.
right?
Yeah, unexpected. The tradition was there in some of the other martial arts, Aikido and Judo, but the kind of the jiu-jitsu path going back to 96, 97 back then, it was, it was very Brazilian culture, party, sort of a rejection of all the traditional stuff. And it was kind of messed with my head a little bit at the time, because I was like, what is all this? But the training was fantastic. So that was cool. And I probably would have stayed. I actually asked my wife to move to Japan and set up life there with me. Everything was going well. Yeah. But
she was willing to do that. Eh? That's a good woman.
She almost. So she had just graduated. She was just about to graduate law school, and she was coming off of spending years living outside the country, living in Europe, living in Russia. Actually, she lived in when it was still the Soviet Union, and she was just kind of like, look, I need to be in the U.S. for a while. Like I was like, okay, fair enough. So came back to the U.S., get married, family, which is awesome, and dived into the martial arts. Got a school up and running, opened my first school in 1999, right here in the Washington, D.C. area. And that's what led me into getting involved with working with the police, working with the military, because we set up another fellow named Al Gauthier, who was one of my teachers, former police officer. And we started a defensive tactics company, and it just grew and it grew and it grew. So doing the martial arts and doing the defensive tactics, and then getting involved with different law enforcement agencies, 3-letter agencies over here, law enforcement, and it was fun. And then that ended up bringing me out to a training school in Arkansas, of all places, in like 2002, 2003, 2004. It was a training school for all former military who wanted to head over to the Middle East to get on PSD contracts and to get their PSD certs. And I got brought out there mostly as the hand-to-hand guy for these guys, but I was also doing all the training while I was there, these 14-day courses of moving and shooting and vehicle counteractions and room clearing and all this stuff. And I was just doing it, and it was fun. It was fun because like these guys had to go do it for real. I'm just running around doing the training, like, yeah, this is so cool. But that's what eventually led to, hey, why don't you come over? Why don't you jump on one of these contracts in the Middle East? You could get involved over here. And so at first I was, like, I don't know, I got a good thing going here with the martial arts school, and I don't really want to, I'm very, very busy here doing the defensive tactics training, coming out to Arkansas, running these courses, running my school, getting involved with kids in the school system and working with them. But eventually you want to do something different. You want sort of that new challenge. And I had moved from Virginia. I'd actually sold my half of the school in Virginia, moved to New York. My family really wanted to go back to New York. Yeah. So we're back up in New York and running a school, jiu-jitsu school up there again. And I had the opportunity to go over head over to the Middle East, head over to Afghanistan, to Mazar-e Sharif. And right before we were about to leave, that contract got killed, like 2 days before we were supposed to leave. And then a week later, I got a call and said, hey, would you mind going to Kuwait instead? And I thought, yeah, whatever, much safer, and it paid more. So I said, yeah, you don't ask me twice. Sure. That turned into a training position, and we're over there training all the incoming security forces, all the U.S. military coalition forces. So we ran ranges all the time for all of the contractors coming in. Ran ranges anytime the military wanted a range, we would be offered up to run the ranges for them. And then I got word. I also ran the jiu-jitsu program in the Zone 6 combatives gym out there at Camp Arifjan. So it was crazy because we were working 12-hour days, and then 12-hour at least, and then trying to run a jiu-jitsu program and doing extra, because then I started working with some of the Marines on doing some of their kind of, we want some hand-to-hand work, and it got busy, and it was a blast though. I loved it. But after 3 years, my wife kind of let me know, like, hey, if you sign on for another year, you might as well just stay. So I said, okay, all right, 3 years that's enough, and made my way back to the U.S. and that's when I came back in 2020, right when COVID hit. And so that was not really the time to get back into the martial arts world. So I ended up through a connection from working in Kuwait. I ended up out in Alaska, the northernmost point of Alaska, where all the oil and gas companies are on their security teams up there. And that was pretty cool, though. I really went from the hottest place on earth to the coldest place. And that was, it was kind of interesting, and spent some time up there in Alaska, which was a blast, being up there where you get the 24 hours of light, the 24 hours of dark, and all that cool stuff. Even found a place in the little camps up there to teach jiu-jitsu while I was there, which was fun. But that was a 3-week on, 3-week off job. So every 3 weeks I was flying across the country and making my way up to Dead Horse, Alaska, and flying all the way back to the East Coast and back and forth and back and forth. So after a while, that got to be a lot. So we just settled back down here in the Virginia area and back to teaching, training, started the tactical training company, which has been a blast because we're getting to do tactical training again. And one of the focuses we do is, aside from doing pistol courses and rifle courses and tactical courses, is we also work with people on teaching them how to protect their home. We work with families in their own home. So it's sort of home invasion training, but it's done inside your own home. So you learn how the family unit, how everyone is going to operate if something happens inside their own home. And because you're in your own home, we show them all the places, all the tactical advantages to be, whether they're a family that's armed, a family that's unarmed, doesn't matter. And we work with them and make sure that they feel comfortable in their own home if anything was to happen. And then that translates to outside the home. If anything was to happen, how they move as a family unit.
So home invasion training, walk me through that.
Sure. So if you're just chilling in your home, right? And the reason we got into this is, unfortunately, in the DC, Northern Virginia, Maryland area, it happens. It's not uncommon that you will be sitting in your home, sitting in your apartment, sitting in your house, townhouse, single family home, whatever it is. And one way or another, there's multiple ways that they do it. There's forced entry, where they'll just try to knock your door open and get into your house. There's to the other extreme of getting Domino's pizza closed. This has happened. Dressing up like a Domino's pizza person, holding a pizza and ringing the doorbell and pretending that they're there to deliver you a pizza. And as soon as you open the door, 4 guys pile into your house, hold you at gunpoint, and rob you. So they're very creative about how they'll get into your house. And then once they get into the house, there's usually multiple people, 2 to 4 people will come into the house, and they'll hold you at gunpoint, and they'll rob your house, take your valuables. Often there's some violence that's going to take place. People get hit, they get hurt. Occasionally people will get shot. And also we've had the situations where people are held hostage for 24, 48, 72 hours in their own home. So we're like, holy good God, this is craziness. So we wanted to work with people to say, okay, you're home, you're with your family, you're in your own home. If this situation kicks off, what do you do? How do you do it? How do you deal with this situation? And it's a matter of teaching principles, because it's a chaos bomb if that happens. That's how we kind of describe it. It's like you're sitting at home, totally relaxing with your family, and if something like this happens, it's as if a chaos bomb just goes off in your house. It's complete and utter chaos. And then we're trying to take the steps to put order back to that chaos. It's often a matter of teaching the family members, no matter what age they are, how to take a role in that situation, to know what is your role and how to move and communicate. The same principles that you would use going through a house, clearing rooms, getting bad guys. Everybody knows their role, and they know how to move, and they know how to communicate. And we take those principles of know your role, know how to communicate, and know how to move, and we apply it to that situation. So if something kicks off, each family member, instead of everybody's running around not knowing what to do, who know where to go or what to do or what I'm supposed to do, now everybody knows when this happens, here's my role. There's only two roles. So you're either one role or you're the other role. You're either a defender or you're a supporter. And then we explain how to communicate, what has to be communicated, and then movement, because the whole goal is simply to escape that situation. And we teach them how to move. And then once we go through and explain all the principles, then it's tailored to their house also. Where are your exits? How do you get in? How do you get out? Where's the safest place in your houses? Can you get out? If you can't get out, how do you set up a safe room in your house? And how do you make that work? If you can get out, how do you know once everybody's clear? We've got to go through this whole process with them. And then we just drill it and drill it and drill it and drill it. And it has a lot of variations depending on the family. You have different ages, totally different attitudes and approaches to the whole situation, from people who want to fight and defend their home to people who have never had any experience with the concept of violence in their life whatsoever. Unarmed homes, armed homes, and having to make all this work for no matter who you're working with. So everyone is very unique. Every time you work with a family is a very, very unique. And part of it is taking the time to get to know this family. I need to know how what's dad's personality, what's mom's personality, how old are the kids, what are their personalities, how is this going to work together? It's a trip. It's really a trip. It's very interesting.
Well, I'm in Toronto, and we are governed by some extreme far left loons, progressives, and what they've done is people are robbing, stealing, even murdering, and being let out on the street very soon thereafter their arrest. And the police are saying, leave the keys, let them take whatever they want.
Oh, yeah.
Which to me is nuts.
Yeah.
I think Canada needs to start arming its citizenry. I think the bail laws need to be changed. And I think some of these guys that do this, like there should be some widely publicized stories of homeowners like decapitating them, killing them. So they start to think twice about doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because even there's plenty of examples of from the bad guy, the criminal's perspective. You just ask them, hey, if you had any inkling that this homeowner was armed, would you go in there? And emphatically, they say, absolutely not. No way. If I know that homeowner has weapons in that house, I'm absolutely not. I'm not going in. I mean, they know you don't want to run up against that. It is absolutely it's a deterrent. I mean, the criminal mindset is generally, I want to achieve my aim, robbing you, hurting you, whatever, with no resistance. As soon as I run into resistance, I want out. I'm done. They're not trained criminal. The criminal mindset is not like a soldier's mindset. They're not there to overcome resistance and win at all costs. They're in it for the easy compliance. And when there's a lack of compliance and people start taking well-trained, intelligent action and they realize this, it's like, dude, I'm done. I'm out. I'm in the wrong place. These are the wrong people. Get me the hell out of here. They want out. Yeah, absolutely.
Against how to defend against criminals is really what people need to learn.
Yeah. And it's even, in DC here, I'm in DC every day. And
Muriel Bowser, man, my God, she's a communist. She wants the criminals to win. She wants the criminals to win. If I were to move to the U.S., I would go to Florida, Texas, Tennessee. Those are the three states that I choose. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Small town, the better. In Florida, the sheriffs say, we encourage you to shoot criminals. I'm like, okay, these are my kind of people, man.
They do. They do.
We encourage you to shoot criminals. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's, it's really, it's nuts here. Here's what makes me crazy. Being in DC, I get these reports all the time of the daily crime reports in DC. And it's a shocking number every night, shootings, stabbings. I mean, you name it, right? And even if you have a concealed carry in DC, the concealed carry is not good on any federal property. You can't bring a firearm onto any federal property, even if you have a concealed carry. The DC concealed carry is very difficult to get. And even if you get it, everywhere in DC is federal property. So it's that crazy situation where there are so many guns in DC. There are so many illegal guns being carried in DC by so many people. And if you attempt to do the right thing, get your concealed carry, do your training, carry your weapon, good luck. Good luck. But the people just walking around, the number of people walking around armed in DC is shocking. There are so many guns in DC, it's ridiculous. But if you try to do it the right way, good luck. Not happening.
Same with Toronto right now. Same with Toronto. I mean, gun laws are pretty strict, and the criminals don't give a shit, and the regular people are completely unarmed, which is fucking nuts as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Completely nuts. Completely nuts.
Yeah.
So Samuel, you what you do is honestly in the form of a public service, but it's a for-profit company. How someone's listening to this and they live in a progressive governed hellhole.
Right.
What's your advice to them?
So always, no matter wherever we go, wherever who we're working with, you do have to know, and you have to be really, really aware of whatever the laws are governing wherever you live, your state, your county, your town, your ordinances. So I do want to know, what can I do? What can I do? Is it a stand your ground state? Is it not? Do I have to retreat all the way, all the way through my house, lock myself in the bedroom and wait for the bad guy to come through the door before I can defend myself? Or yes, I have to know what the laws are. However, we have the second talk, which is, okay, here's what the law is for your state. For example, Maryland is, DC is very strict. Maryland is very strict. Virginia is less so. So we'll go over, okay, here's the state laws in Maryland. This is what it says you have to do. However, of course, you have to make your own decision. Your safety, your survival, that has to come first. So here's what the law says. But at the end of the day, you and your family need to stay alive. And in order to satisfy the law, here, see if you can work it out when we run these scenarios where we can still stay on the right side of the law, but you are still taking care of your family. And you ask any person, of course, when you ask this question, let me just ask you this. What's more important to you, staying on the right side of the law or keeping your family alive and safe? Everyone's going to say keeping my family alive and safe. And I say, okay, so we're going to do whatever we have to do, and we'll sort out the aftermath afterwards. Now, hopefully, we can run everything where we keep you on the correct side of your state's laws and your ordinances, whatever you got. Keep you on the right side of that the best we can. But at the end of the day, you have an absolute right to defend yourself. You got to keep your family safe. Of course. And now I will say this on the other side of the training. This is something that's important because I do a lot of always get asked to do self-defense training and all of this stuff, and I do it maybe a little differently than most, but this is the other thing with people who come in and do training, who come in and for the first time and do are a new concealed carry person and they want to do some pistol training, and you can almost see it sometimes, or even people who get into the martial arts at first, and you say, look, I swear I can almost see it. Do not, please, for the love of God, do not take this training and now do something you normally wouldn't do because you think you have this training now, and now you think it's okay. If you see trouble, you still have to go the other way. Please don't go out looking for it because now, I took a pistol shooting course, and so now nobody's going to push me around. No, brother. We still avoid this stuff like the plague. Of course, we still go out of our way to stay vigilant.
This is insurance. This is insurance. This isn't let's go
right
out there and pretend I'm Wild Bill Cody. This is insurance.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's amazing some of the stuff that I'll hear or questions I'll get asked. And, well, I'll tell you what, now that I know this, if somebody messes with me, I'm going to get out of my car and I'm like, whoa, no, you're not. No. At no point will you be the aggressor. No, that's not how this works. And so that's a drum that just I've learned over the years. You got to beat a lot is because you have the training. Please don't go out there and be the aggressor in this situation now. So it's not going to end well for you. Because at the end of the day, everything that we're doing, everything that I do, everything that we're doing, we're trying to help people, allow people, do whatever I can to have people have a better life. And if you do get caught up in a violent situation, that's one of the reasons I'm trying to help people and work with people to learn how to avoid and mitigate violent situations. As you can have a beautiful life, you can be working so hard every day to make this beautiful life and doing all these great things for your family and yourself and improving yourself. And one violent act can change all that in 10 seconds. And it can have a lasting effect for the rest of your life. If you're the victim of a violent attack and it doesn't go your way, all those decades of building this beautiful life can be taken away very, very quickly. Our main goal is to make sure that never happens. I don't want it to happen to anybody, So we can help you avoid that situation at all costs, recognize and avoid a situation, beautiful. And if it does happen, we're going to have you be the winner in that situation so you can keep the integrity of that life that you've developed, and you don't have to deal with the fallout of a violent situation.
Years ago on my podcast, I interviewed Tim Larkin. He's Tony Robbins' personal protection mentor. He wrote a book called When Violence is the Answer, which was a New York Times bestseller. And that's his message too. Don't go looking for trouble.
Yeah.
Don't go looking for trouble. If you cannot avoid trouble, be ready to defend yourself. But if you can avoid trouble, avoid it every time. And I'm game with that. Who the hell wants that? Bring harmony into your life as much as possible. Look for harmony.
Absolutely.
Look for harmony. Yeah,
and if it the other thing too that's interesting is training people to get the idea of ending a situation. If we are gonna have to act in a violent manner, realizing, understanding the dynamics of a violent situation. We generally call them developing hostile situations. And when I recognize I'm in a developing hostile situation, what do I do? And a lot of that involves ending the situation before it has a chance to get started. And that's a whole trained mentality of understanding how violent situations develop. Rarely is it what we call a ninja attack. Rarely am I walking down the street and 5 ninjas drop down and I'm instantly in a fight. It's generally there's a building, whether it's a physical, I'm being attacked physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. There's a process in there. Even a physical fight, it might be 10 seconds, but there's a building process that happens before we come to blows. And it's the ability to recognize that and then not wait till we get to that 10 seconds and start going. But at second number 1.5, it's done. We recognized it and we ended it before it had a chance to get started. And it sounds very violent, right? That kind of speed, surprise, and violence of action. But on the other hand, the worst situation is to get into a full-on developed violent situation because now more people are getting hurt and the amount of violence that happens is usually a lot. If I can end this before it starts, least amount of violence, and it's over. So it's interesting because we teach peace, like you said, we teach peace and we teach harmony all day long, and that's what I want. But if you have to employ violence, then we're going to teach you how to employ it as effectively as possible, and to be able to do. Unfortunately, it's sad, but we have to be able to do both. I want to be that 99.9% harmony, but if I need that 0.1% of violence, it's going to be shockingly effective. And so I can get back to the harmony in my life and not allow anything in to disrupt that, Yeah. That's all.
No, that's good, Samuel. That's good. So if someone wants to find out more about your trainings, where do we send them?
So they can go to our website, which is SNS Tactical Training, and it's SN, the letter N. SNS tacticaltraining.com. Okay. We'll make sure that's in the show notes.
so people can go check it out. I've enjoyed this conversation, Samuel. So if we end every episode by asking you, our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps in bullet point form? These are your 3 best pieces of advice to my listener. What say you?
All right. Well, my first is keep listening to your podcast. You've got a lot of good people on here for sure. So besides that,
That's a good piece of advice.
it's a good piece of advice, right? No, and it actually ties into what would be my next bullet point, because this is a theme. Putting together running the martial arts schools, putting together SNS tactical training, team Fudoshin, all this stuff. There has to be, like I said, the one overarching theme. Why am I doing this stuff? Why do I do this stuff? And for me, this is my mantra for every day, that every single day I want to put time and effort into improving myself in some way. But that the only reason I do that is for the purpose of better serving the people around me. I want to make myself a better person every single day, so that every person that I run into, I'm better able to serve that person, whether it's my own family, my coworkers, the person I run into at the grocery store. It really doesn't matter. But I want to have more that I can offer to serve the people around me, because just self-improvement for just self-improvement's sake, to me, is like, well, that's the ultimate act of selfishness. So self-improvement for the sake of the people around me, to me, that makes a lot of sense. So you do all the self-improvement in the world. But there's another thing that we say is, I say, train like a savage, give it away like a saint. So train like an absolute savage, push yourself beyond your limits. And then everything that you get from that savage training, give it away every day like a saint to everybody that you can, everybody around you. That's really what's goes through my head all the time. Everything that we're doing, everybody that I'm working with, is how can I give away to this person? How can this person walk away from me saying, damn, my day got a little bit better because I ran into Romanzo over there, and it was great. And the other thing too, I want to put out there is that my partner in this with SNS Tactical Training, Sean Sullivan, he's really the tactical, super tactical part of this too. And this is a guy who was Green Beret for years, spent over 10 years deployed in the Middle East, worked with the Delta dudes, was on the SIF teams, and has just spent a huge part of his life in combat. So he's been through a lot, seen a lot, and he's a real interesting dude, real crazy guy. And he's got everything that we're doing, he's bringing all that tactical experience to it also, from having been there, done that. Like I said, he's 10 years either in Africa or the Middle East, 10 years of being deployed with the Green Berets, with the SIF teams, or as a contractor, and brings all that stuff to the table when we get into the tactical training. And so that it lends to especially when you speak of the mindset that you need and the dynamics of these situations. And he's bringing that reality-based training to everything that we're doing, for sure.
Awesome. So, listener, Samuel Romanzo is the real deal. SNS Tactical Training sounds like a hell of a company that teaches some badly needed skills to civilians. And here's the truth. If you live in a country, city, state governed by progressives, they have abandoned you, and they have made you far more likely to be a victim of the criminal element. So you got to learn how to defend yourself. You can't wait on the cops. The cops aren't going to show up until these guys are long gone, and you and your family could be hurt or dead. And it's very important that you learn how to protect yourself. When violence is the only possible answer, you need to talk to someone like Samuel Romanzo. And this is a powerful episode that's opened my eyes, and I know it'll open your eyes if you let it. And you should let it, because this is 2025. This is not the year 2003. The city, the county, the state, the country you lived in might have been safe back then. Home invasions, criminals attacking you and robbing you and stealing your car, doing carjackings were not a thing 22 years ago, but they are a thing today. You better wake up and be prepared. The Boy Scout motto, be prepared, is the greatest motto of all time. Be prepared, learn how to defend and protect yourself. If you're a man in particular, I got to tell you, it's the most important thing you can do. Your number one job is to protect that which you love and those whom you love. It's your number one job. If you don't do that job, no other job that you have really matters. You got to do that job first, foremost, to the very best of your ability. To the very best of your ability. And your best can't be an excuse for dogging it and sliding away from taking full responsibility and ownership. As a man, if you're a father and you're listening to this, your best means like going all in to win. All in to win. That's very powerful. It's very important to understand, and it's very, very important to live by that. If you do that, you and your family are likely going to be safe. If you don't do that, you may or may not be safe. And that's a fact. Samuel, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
You got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's amazing guest, the one and only Samuel Romanzo, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode. Maybe you're listening to us on iTunes. Maybe you're listening to us on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, Google Play, Audible, what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.